Good morning, Miss and fellow colleagues. We are the members of Group 1 and we will be presenting on albinism. My group members are Selena, Loitax, Kyla, Darez, Pauline, and myself, Daniel. In this presentation, we will be looking at what is albinism, its signs, causes, and how it can be treated. So albinism falls under a broad topic, which is molecular disease. And a molecular disease is a disease in which there is an abnormality in or deficiency of a particular molecule. And an example would be hemoglobin in sickle cell anemia. Molecular diseases can be found throughout the world and they affect the people in a population. The molecular disease we'll be looking at, as I said, is albinism. So what is albinism? Albinism is a rare genetic condition that causes a decrease in melanin production in the skin, hair, and eyes, resulting in light or no color. This disorder occurs all throughout the world and it affects 1 in every 20,000 Americans and is more frequent in other parts of the world such as Zimbabwe, Africa, where 1 in every 1,000 persons has some type of albinism and it affects their bodies. Now I hand you over to Kyla.
Good morning, everyone. So I will be looking at some of the signs that will be common with persons suffering from albinism. The first of these are the skin. So the most recognizable form of albinism results in very light-colored skin. Skin coloring or pigmentation can range from white to brown. With exposure to the sun, some persons may develop freckles, which can be seen in the first picture, and there are pigment cells that are contained within the skin. They can also develop moles. Moles without pigment are generally pink colored, as seen in the second picture. Sunburn. Albinos usually experience sunburns, and it usually appears after excessive exposure to ultraviolet light. Finally, skin cancer. Most often develops on skin exposed to the sun and occur frequently in persons suffering from albinism. Now I'll be looking at hair. Hair color can range from very white to brown. Persons of African descent, for example, the child on the right who have albinism may have hair color that's yellow, reddish, or brown compared to persons that are white, who usually have white hair as seen in the first picture. Now I'll be looking at eye color. The eye color can range from very light blue to brown and may change with age. The lack of pigment in the colored part of the eyes or the iris makes the iris somewhat translucent. Very light colored eyes may appear red in some lighting as seen in the second picture. Finally, I'm looking at vision impairment. Vision impairment is a key feature of all types of albinism. Abnormal development of the eyes in the absence of melanin in sufferers may cause photophobia or sensitivity to light, involuntary rapid eye movements, impaired vision or blindness, and farsightedness along with blurred vision. Now I hand you over to my colleague.
Thank you. My name is Darius Dundas, and I'll be looking at what causes albinism. Now, albinism is caused due to several genes. Now, these genes provide instructions for the production of melanin, and there may be an inherited mutation that occurs that causes albinism. This may be either due to autosomal recessive inheritance pattern, in which this gene is inherited by both parents, or it may be caused due to some form of X-linked recessive inheritance, in which this albinism is passed on from mother to sons. And that will be discussed as we look at the different types of albinism. Now, there are different gene defects that characterize the numerous types of albinism, and these include oculocutaneous albinism. Ocular meaning eye, cutaneous meaning skin. So this albinism expresses itself within the eyes and within the skin. Now, scientists for many decades have tried to categorize OCD based on its effects, and they've categorized it based on 8 different groups: OCA1 to OCA8. OCA1 to 4 are the most prevalent, and they are specific chromosomes that have been mutated that cause either the complete absence of melanin or melanin to be produced in small amounts. Actually, if you go from OCA1 to OCA4, you find that melanin tends to increase in its production. So you may have persons that range from no pigmentation in their hair or skin to some pigmentation to only a small decrease in the pigmentation, as seen in OCA4, as seen in OCA3, which is very prevalent in persons in Southern Africa who may still retain their dark skin and may have reddish brown hair or and even hazel eyes or brown eyes. Now, the second form of albinism or causal albinism may be ocular albinism. Now, this is a result of the gene mutation on the X chromosome, and it is mostly inherited by males. They would inherit it from their mothers. So this is what was referred to earlier when we spoke about the X-linked recessive gene being passed on from mothers to sons. Now, in ocular albinism, people have a reduced coloring in their retina. So this mutation prevents them from creating pigments that cause their coloring in their iris, and also it can offer them different retinal issues. This condition does not affect the skin or hair like with ocular cutaneous albinism. Next slide. Now, albinism can also be caused due to rare hereditary syndromes. Now, these rare hereditary syndromes like Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome, Chediak-Higashi syndrome, and Griscelli syndrome, as the title mentions, is very rare. And there's little research on them because only a few people worldwide, actually Chediak-Higashi syndrome, only 500 cases have been recorded in the last 100 years. But its effects can range from bleeding disorders and also similar symptoms to that of OCD. Okay, and well, those are the three causes or the three main causes of albinism. I now hand you over to Pauline.
Good morning, class. I'm Pauline, and I'll be discussing on how albinism can be treated. Now, there's no cure for albinism, but it can be managed by taking precautions when it comes to sun protection. For visual rehabilitation, there are various optical aids that can be helpful. Among these, we have bifocals, prescription reading glasses, contact lenses, and optics. Some persons would use handheld magnifiers or special small telescopes, and even screen magnification products on computers. We also have persons that are usually sensitive to glare, so they can use sunglasses or tinted contact lenses when they're outdoor, and when they're using light to read or do close work indoors, they can place the light over the shoulder rather than in front of them. And there's also surgical intervention. In the case of strabismus, surgery can be done to improve the appearance of the eyes. And for esotropia or cross eyes, surgery may also help the vision by expanding the visual field. And also surgical intervention is available to minimize nystagmus. Now, for the dermatological aid, people with albinism have an increased risk of developing cancer. So normally they would be advised to wear sunglasses when they're going outdoors, cover up their skin with sun protective clothing, and also wear hats. So And lastly, they're also advised to apply sunscreen regularly. Now, to conclude our presentation, I'll be highlighting some of the main points. So the first one is, well, we know that albinism is a rare genetic disorder where an individual isn't born with the usual amount of melanin pigment. Most persons with albinism usually have a very pale skin, hair, eyes, and this would make them prone to sunburn and skin cancer. Um, Melanin is also involved in optical nerve development, so individuals may have vision problems. And this condition is usually caused by mutations in one of several genes, and there are several types. Among those, we have ocular albinism, Hermansky, Podlock syndrome, um, Chiliac, Higashi syndrome, etc. And finally, while albinism has no cure, therapy can help to alleviate symptoms and avoid sun damage. So this brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you.
These are references. Thank you for listening to our presentation.